So this last video is just going to walk through some math things, and then we're going to make some predictions of how we could actually write code that would generate specific sets of specific numbers. So here it says, for each of the following, determine the set of random numbers that would be generated. So here we see that we're using random, so we know that this is going to be a float to start. And then what I like to do with the math ones is I'll always start with what the range would have been had that multiplication not existed. So it would have been 0 is less than or equal to x is less than 1. And then I know that this multiplication of 6 multiplies 0 times 6, which is 0, and 1 times 6, which is 6. So what this multiplication of 6 does is it expands our range from 0, and it takes it all the way up to 6, just not quite including 6. Now here, random, it's the same type of function, so we know this is going to create a float. But this time, there's no multiplication, and it adds 17. So what I like to do here is I like to then write in, okay, I have 0 is less than or equal to x is less than 1. That's where that range would have originally started. Now I'm adding 17 to everything. So I'm adding 17 to 0, and I'm adding 17 to 1, which becomes 18. So this moves my range up to a starting value of 17, but keeps it a distance of 1 unit. So we start at 17 and we go all the way up to, but not quite including 18. Okay, so this example down here, again, we see the word random, so we know that this is going to be a float. And we know that originally this would have started with 0 less than or equal to x is less than 1. That's where we would have started. And from here, we have to remember that order of operations applies. So because multiplication comes first in the order of operations, multiplication comes first here as well. So we apply the order of operations. So we have 0 times 3, which is 0, and 1 times 3, which is 3. Now that we've applied our multiplication, we branch out our order of operations, and now we do the addition of 12. So here, 0 plus 12 is 12. 3 plus 12 is 15. So this particular instruction would result in a set of random numbers starting at 12, going all the way up to, but not quite including 15. This next one here says rand range, which I know is going to produce an integer. And then here, I know that this has 2 values, so they're going to produce integers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I focus on the rand range first, and then I focus on the multiplication of 3. So here, we multiply every single value by 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 3 is 15. And 6 times 3 is 18. Those are the set of numbers that would result from this instruction. Here, we see that we have rand range again. So I'm going to do an enter sign. Ooh, hold on. Didn't mean to enter there. Enter there. There we go. And then we have an integer that's going to result. And because I see 20, 24, I know that's going to be 20, 21, 22, and 23. And then I notice here I have this addition of 5 on the outside, which tells me I'm going to add 5 to each of these values. So I have 25, 6, 7, and 28. So that's the random number set that would result there. And then last but not least, we have another rand range, which tells us we have an integer. Then I see 15 up to 17, which would be 15 and 16, not including 17. And then again, just like this example here, the order of operations applies. So we multiply everything by 4 first. So 15 times 4 would be 60. 16 times 4 would be 64. And then after we multiply, we do our addition of 8. So this would result in 68, and this would result in 72. So that's how we would get the random integers of 68 and 72 generated. So hopefully you have a better idea of how that mathematics works when used with random numbers, and now you can either make your own random ranges that give you the specific random numbers you desire, or you'll be able to interpret some code as well. So the last thing to think about, I know you have some exercises that you'll work through, but if you want some extra practice and you're really struggling with random numbers, you can continue watching, and we'll just walk through a couple of these on how we can write programs that do the following. So I'll include some programs here. I'll just walk you through my thinking, and we'll go from there. So this says, write a program that randomly generates the following set of numbers. So part A, so I'm just going to do random numbers practice 1. This one says a random decimal number between 0 and 10, but not including 10. So what this is telling me is that I'm going to need to use random because that will generate random numbers that are floats. And it's a decimal number. Then from here, I know that this particular set will only generate from 0 to 1. So it'll start at 0 and it'll go all the way up to, but not including 1. So if I want to expand it to 10, I know that I need to use multiplication. So I would multiply that by 10. So here I could then save that. I'll save it in num4. What this would do is it would generate, there we go. Generate a random decimal between 0 and 10. So you'll need to be able to write out that code as well, generating that specific set of random numbers that you desire. Here we want num5. This is going to be generating a random number between 1 and 200. Now it doesn't state, but I'm going to put in here a random integer number between 1 and 200. So it's a little bit more specific. If it's an integer, then I know that I want to use rand range because that will generate an integer. And then I want numbers that start at 1 but go up to 200. And I know it's tempting to just put 200 there, but remember that final number is not included, so we would need to put 201. So here we would do generates a random integer between 0 and 200. And the last one, num6, is going to randomly generate a number which is a multiple of 3. So a multiple of 3 tells us that it is an integer. And they're between 3 and 99, including 99. So here, again, I'm going to use rand range. I'm going to start at 3, go all the way up to 99. But remember, I want to go past 99, or I want to include 99. So let's do 100 instead. And then we want to have them go up by 3 every single time. So this generates a random multiple of 3. So they're 3 apart, starting at 3 and ending, and we'll do a comment down. There we go. And ending when we go past 100, which will include 99 in our set. So this is just some extra practice. I would expect to see these 3 lines here that would be able to generate those random sets. So make sure you're familiar with both here estimating or figuring out what the random set of numbers would be, and then here writing the code that would produce a specific set of random numbers.